Well, hello, everybody. Today I'm really excited. I have Cindy Readnower with me. Cindy Readnower is the owner of Skinny Leopard Media, a publishing platform for independent authors. She provides services across all aspects of publishing, from book design to book promotions. She has experience in multiple genres and is an avid reader and author herself. Cindy is also a very good friend and a colleague. We've probably known each other for some 13 or more years now, and I consider her a mentor, both personally and professionally. She is just so full of knowledge, and I'm so grateful that she's here today. Cindy, welcome.
Well, thank you. Always good to talk to you.
Okay, so today we're going to talk a little bit about book covers and book formatting because as a coach, this comes up a lot where people want me to walk them through the process. And I tell them a little bit, and then I say, Cindy is the woman you want to speak with. So, Cindy, if somebody has their manuscript, they've finished their book, and they want to create a book cover, where do
Mhm.
they start?
Well, a lot of people have an idea for a book cover before they even write the book. And really, a book cover is one of the last things you need to do because the cover is competing with all the different thumbnails on every website, especially Amazon. And you have to figure out what's going to make yours stand out from all those different thumbnails. And it's got to have a great image. It's got to have the right colors that portray it. For example, if you're writing a men's adventure and action book, you're not going to do the whole thing in pinks and purples. Or if you're going to do something like a cozy mystery, you're probably not going to have something very modern on it because a lot of cozy mysteries go back a little bit, like your books, Danielle, go back to the 90s.
Mhm.
And a lot of cozy mysteries are even back in the 1900s. So you have to have something that lets the reader know immediately what type of genre you're leading to.
Okay. So, I'm curious what you think about this. I understand why people are doing it, and I fight with it. Um, some of the current advice is when you're creating a cover, say a cozy mystery cover, a horror book, you look at what the stars are doing, like the famous authors, and you try to create something similar in style because you want to psychologically them to think about that author. Is that a good way to go? Why or why not?
Well, I would say it depends. Uh, it depends on what you really want to accomplish here. You don't want to, excuse me, you don't want to change your own voice. You don't want it to be something so similar to other people's that they're going to be disappointed when they read your book and it's not that famous author's book. So I think you have to kind of take several things into consideration before you decide that.
Okay, so I know in my own case, I hired some friends of mine who are artists, professional artists, and some did painting or pastels. Some used graphic design. I will say that, I was really lucky in that the artists I worked with, their designs were beautiful. But when it's something that's hand painted or drawn, that's a little bit harder to modify than if you've got a graphic design when you say, you know what, I want that bird over here in this color. So just
Right.
kind of keep in mind the medium a little bit. But Cindy, do you have any tips for where people can go to find an artist, or should they go to you to design it? Can they design it themselves?
Well, all those options actually. Uh, but one of the things is that I also had an artist that I hired for a book design, and I gave them certain parameters, and I paid a couple $100 for them to bring me the design. And when I saw it, I was so disappointed, and I knew immediately it just was not representative of the book I wanted to have. So I ended up going to pixabay.com, which has all copyright free, attribution free images, and there is no restriction on how many times you can use them in a print book or online. And I did a combination of images myself on Photoshop, and then I was much happier with it. So, but you can also go and hire people online, Fiverr, Freelancer, 99 Designs, and prices vary across, gosh, it could be $50 to hundreds of dollars. And on 99 Designs, you actually pick a price, you invite people to come to give you their ideas of the book, and then they decide if they are going to meet your price or not. And I think I sent 10 people invitations on one book, and I got 5 people that doubled the price. And I probably got 3 people that met the price. And then I picked one of those and worked with that person.
Okay, and I've actually used 99 Designs for logo creation in the past. And
Mhm.
so you set the parameters and then people say, "Hey, that's within my range," and then they'll offer something. So, one more thing on this before I move on to a little bit more of the designing aspects and the formatting aspects. So, one of the things that I've done, and I don't know if you've done this as well, it sounds like you have, where I've gone into something like canva.com and tried to do like a mock-up, and it's
Yeah.
ugly. It's just like I pasted together. But I say the concept is this, and then I'll find online photos and say the person looks sort of like this person, or
Mm,
the background looks a little bit like that, the color scheme. And that has been helpful, even if it's not the thing, but to send someone a mock-up tends to, I think,
that's a
can be
great
helpful.
idea. Yeah, I don't know how many people would feel comfortable with doing that, but that is a great idea to do that.
Here's my ugly baby, make it pretty.
Yes.
So once they have that cover, though, it's not going to be formatted as a book cover, right? Necessarily. If they go with the designer will know the dimensions probably. But if I were to give you something that's like Canva, how do you format it?
Well, that's one thing that makes waiting till the end more appropriate because a lot of times you don't know what size you're going to have for a finished product until you know the number of pages. So it might be 5.5 by 8.5, or a 6 by 9, or an 8 by 10. You really have to know that before you go to a designer and tell them, I need a 6 by 9 or whatever dimension you need for the front cover. And then when you get that cover completed for the front, you're going to need, if it's going into print and not just digital, you're going to need a cover template. So whether you publish through Ingram Spark or through KDP, which is Amazon's arm, you're going to need a cover template that you put on the spine and the back cover also.
Okay. And that is something that if they don't know how to do that, they can come to you and you can format that for them.
Right. That's part of my services. But other cover designers sometimes do that too.
So it would be a question of saying, like, say they're working with you, say on the formatting, and you
Mhm.
say, I need this cover in this format, and they're already working with a designer, you would just give them the specs and the designer would know to create that design to those specs.
Correct. Or if they like your books, Danielle, what we've done is you've always given me the front cover, and then I create the spine and the back cover and give you different options, and then you choose.
And I
And
really like that way the best because I have if I have a creative vision, and I did create the last couple of covers for myself, and you did a beautiful job of adding that background and kind of tying it all together. Um, I think that's the way to go. But when you're have a format for hardcover or paperback or ebook or audiobook, so
mhm,
people should know they're not all the same sizing, right?
correct. But with the digital covers, you don't need as high a resolution. When you have a print cover, you have to have at least 300 DPI for it to be printed. And so everything has to meet certain specs for the printing company versus for digital, it doesn't have to be that high of resolution.
Okay. And I know from audiobooks, as you said, the resolution doesn't have to be there, but it has to be formatted in a square. So it's not going to look like a traditional book cover.
Right.
I learned that the hard way. So anything else that people should be mindful of with the genre, the colors, the size of the book?
The font, the
Mhm.
way the font looks. If you have a very contemporary romance, you're probably not going to put a Gothic font on it. It's a lot of common sense that way. And also, Do you want your name in big print if you're an unknown author? Does that really what matters? You know, if you're a famous author, your name's going to matter a lot, and you probably do want it all over the cover, but maybe you don't. Maybe you need a tagline, maybe you need a subtitle to help people to understand what your book is about too.
Yeah.
So, you know, again, it really depends on thinking about your reader. What does your reader comprehend when they see your cover?
Yeah. So the takeaways before we move on to formatting is make sure it looks like the genre. And something you taught me, make sure if you have a series of books, 1, 2, and 3, they should look like they go together. You should know that they're part of the same series. Learned that the hard way.
Mhm.
And making sure that like you can pick it up, you know the genre, know your audience, right? So if you're having a young person or an older person who's going to be reading it, maybe that's reflective in the design.
That's right. Mhm.
Okay. And in you say do the cover at the end, which is funny because I always do the cover at the beginning and maybe I shouldn't.
Well, I think it's because a lot of people, when they have that creative streak and they have that concept of their book, sometimes that's part of the creative process.
Yeah.
And that's fine, I think. But at the end, then maybe you decide, well, gee, maybe it needs to be changed a little bit or tweaked.
Yeah. So I will say that one of mine I had designed as I was writing the book. And then after the book was done, I'm like, that's not right. And I did change it just a little
Yeah.
bit.
And even you've changed covers after they've been published too, because
Yes.
that's a good thing because you realize that maybe you have something that would pique interest more with a change.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's good. That's good.
Everyone learn from my mistakes. So going on to, they have the manuscript.
Mhm.
Now what happens? So they have, it's done as far as they can see, it's ready to go, but maybe it has been edited, maybe it hasn't. What gets handed to you?
A lot of times, if I don't know the person, if it's just a new client and I don't know their writing style or what they've actually come up with, I like to look at a chapter so I can get an idea of does it need to be edited? Does it need to be proofed? Which means it's not a full edit, but at least needs a going over. Or does it need even more work? And it just depends. You never know when you get a manuscript.
Yeah. This is the hard part for me is knowing sometimes what to give you. So, for example, when I write something, I try to get one person to edit and one person to proof. Sometimes I'm the proofer and the editor, but in reality, the best situation is having two other eyes on your book if you can afford it, because you tend to miss things. And yes, there is pro writing aid and Grammarly, but if you can get a human to go through your book, it's better. And I know Cindy offers those editing and proofing services as well, so I highly recommend her. But the hard part is what we turn over to you. So I usually give you
Mhm.
a Word doc that
Mhm.
exported from Scrivener is what I use, and it comes in a Word document, but it doesn't have pretty flourishes. It's just like, okay, it's Calibri 12 point. Here you go. Is that fine for what you're doing?
Yes. Yes, that's really good. The biggest thing is that the document is as clean as possible so
Okay.
that somebody, if they've used Word or Pages or any of the software programs to set it up, they've told the program what type of paragraph indent they want, or do they want spacing after a paragraph? Rather than going through like the old typewriter days when you tab, carriage return, because that can kind of mess with certain software programs. I
Okay.
use Vellum a lot. If if it works, I use Vellum. They offer multiple styles, multiple flourishes. You can customize a lot of things, different sizes, margins, all that. So it's great if it will go into Vellum easily. If not, then it still needs some manual tweaking and taking out the tabs, taking out extra spaces.
Okay.
Just so as clean as possible is great.
So if I work with somebody who is a tabber, like I tend to left justify everything, I don't know why, but if somebody tabs automatically, hitting the tab on the computer, that's going to change the formatting a little bit in the final product.
Yes, it can. Well, basically what it means is I have to go in manually and I have to be searching with my eyes, just, paragraph, paragraph, paragraph to
Okay.
see what's going on.
Okay. So in an ideal world, that person, if they know they're going to work with you, they would chat with you before, maybe even before they're writing, because I can see where somebody is used to writing a certain way in a Word doc, and they're not even necessarily thinking about that or not even know how to do that.
That's right. And then another issue that I sometimes see is somebody who has very, very old versions of Word.
Hmm.
So that when you use today's cloud version of Word, then it's all gobbledygook. And you get these weird little symbols that show up, and you have to
Okay.
figure out why.
So the cleaner it is, the easier it is to work with you. So if they are working with you, even in the writing process, they can talk with you and you can work with them and to help them set up correctly.
Mhm.
Okay.
Sure.
If they were using a software like Scrivener, or is there one that you like and recommend that people use because you can compile it automatically switching to a certain format?
Well, I think anything that does a good job of saving it in a Word type document is the best thing,
Okay.
as long as it saves in Word. Because a lot of the programs, the formatting programs do require Word.
Okay. And the long and short of it is, if all this is Greek to you and you can get a finished product to Cindy, you can fix it. Takes a little
Yes.
more time, but you can fix it. So, what's the difference between, say, a print book and an ebook? The files have to be formatted differently. And can you talk a little bit about where that goes out in space to be considered published?
Okay. So for a print book, it's usually a PDF file that has to be uploaded, and the PDF file has to have all the fonts embedded. So that is what a printer sees to make sure that it comes out exactly the way you want it to, which
Okay.
means that the PDF has to be checked through something like Adobe Acrobat or through a publishing software that knows that it's going to print the way you're actually looking at it yourself.
Okay.
So that goes to Ingram Spark or kdp.amazon or whoever else is publishing that for you. And then you usually get a proof back in an electronic format. And you have to approve that before you can order a print proof. And then a lot of people catch errors once they see it in print. If you see it on a computer screen, it's not the same as actually seeing it in print.
Yeah, I always
And
tell people, yeah, get a copy of the print before you go ahead and hit the publish button because there might be something. But how do they get two different ones, one for print and one for ebook, or do they just get one proof?
well, when you upload to a print version with the PDF, then for a digital version, you're going to upload an EPUB.
Okay.
So that's the format that digital requires. And for that, you usually do not get a print proof unless you want, or any kind of proof, unless you want to go onto KDP. If you're uploading it to them directly, they do have a preview function
Okay.
where you can look at the way the digital proof's going to appear.
Okay, so I can see or hear people out there saying, what the heck is KDP? What the heck is Ingram Spark? So I pretend I'm a newbie and I'm like, I just want people from Barnes and Noble and the local bookstore to be able to order it online. Where does my product go when it's this EPUB or this PDF?
Well, it can go to either or both,
Okay.
or multiple sites, depending on what you choose. And that's something that I can talk to people about. I always include a complimentary call with anybody who's interested in working with me. So we can talk about that. But Ingram Spark is a part of Ingram, which is the largest book distributor in the world. They can distribute it to any online bookstore. The only thing is that when you publish this way, it does not appear in a bookstore, although it can be ordered through a bookstore.
Okay.
And then they also do digital versions, but my preference is to do the digital version directly through Amazon. I think it's easier. There's no cost to actually upload the file, and it can be available for sale within 24 to 48 hours.
Okay. And if I can convince you to come back and chat with me again, I want to spend another day talking about just the ways to market and how to distribute.
Mhm.
because there's different exclusivity agreements and things, and I don't want to muddy the waters today, but it would be really good for people to know about. So before we wrap up, can you tell us what's an ISBN? When does
Mhm.
someone need to get that? Probably after they talk to you, I would think. And what's the Library of Congress or Amazon's own ID? There's all these little extras.
Sure. Well, the ISBN is the book identifier. Any printed book has to have that. And it definitely says ISBN, and there's
Mhm.
the number. It's usually a 13-digit number. The only authorized place to actually buy that directly yourself and be the imprint or the owner of that ISBN is through Boker. That website is myidentifiers.com. And then if you publish an ebook directly through Amazon, they're going to assign their own ASIN number. So you don't need an ISBN because they do cost money. They're $125 a piece, or you can buy them in a block of 10 for $2.95. And then what else? The other number you
Oh,
asked me about.
Library of Congress. Is that important?
Well, that is how libraries order books, and libraries are starting to order more self-published books. So I've always thought it was important. However, since COVID, it used to be you could file online to get an LCCN within 24 hours. Now it's taking 4 to 6 weeks. So sometimes that's outside the actual publishing time to get your book online. So that's kind of a value decision right now. Do you need one?
Okay. So Ingram Spark, for example, or Amazon, that's not going to be distributed to libraries, but if it's registered with the Library of Congress, that's how it gets into
That's how they
libraries.
order it. Correct.
Okay.
And then a word too about ISBNs and ownership. You can get a free one from Ingram Spark. You can get a free one from Amazon, which saves you $125. But then they are the imprint name on that book. So if anybody ever goes to search for who owns that book through the ISBN number, it's not going to come up with your imprint or your account on it. And also, if you decide, which sometimes you do, or you always do, to publish on both print through Amazon and Ingram Spark,
Yeah.
they will not accept each other's free ISBNs.
Yeah. And there's a whole bunch of other indie publishing sites that we won't get into today, but I would say having your own ISBN, if you're in this if you're going to do one book, and I just want to do it as a nice to have, but if you're a career writer and you want to market as much as possible, as far and wide, I would invest in the ISBN. Cindy, would you agree? Or
I absolutely agree. Plus, any version that's different than the original, you need a new ISBN. So if you do a hardback, you need one. If you do a paperback, you need one. If you do it in Spanish, you need another one. So it's worthwhile.
yes,
Get a
and
bunch.
we had a good example of that with my journaling book, because I had one with lined pages that you can print and write, and I had a mini version where it's all the same writing prompts. You provide your own journal, but I had to make enough changes and get a new ISBN because there was just enough difference
Right.
that they needed to be able to identify it. All right, so what services does Skinny Leopard Media provide? If you can go through the list, and how can people get in touch with you to work with you, which I would highly recommend.
Thank you. Well, they can go to skinnyleopardmedia.com and go to the contact form and connect with me that way. I provide pretty much any service of the publishing arm that you need, including uploading all the files, helping you choose a design for your format, getting it into the correct formats, helping you set up all the accounts that you need to, helping you obtain your ISBNs, your Library of Congress control numbers, copyright. I file for copyrights for people. So I basically do it all. Just need to
Cindy is
decide.
a wealth of information, and every time, I swear to you, every time I publish a new book, she's always on the pulse of what's trending. Like, hey, did you know you could also do this? And she throws all this information. I'm like, where is
Like,
this coming from? She's just the
oh,
genius.
TikTok.
So, I
Favorite.
will make sure to have your website and information in the description of this video. And hopefully we can convince you to come back and talk about marketing next time, because I think it would be so valuable.
I'd love to. Thank you.
Cindy, thank you so much.
Thank you.